Canada has one of the best education systems in the world. In fact, in a recent survey, Canada ranked as number 4th in the world's best education system. But it can be very confusing for newcomers or new immigrants here in Canada. There's a lot of things to consider, like age restriction, for example, or even where you live. Back in 2010, when we first immigrated here, we were hoping to get my son, who was 5 years old at that time, to grade 1. You see, he's already completed kindergarten where we came from. But the school that we wanted him to get into was saying that he's too young. It was a bit troubling and confusing at first, so we had to talk to the principal and ask for an exception for him. So the principal was graceful enough to just have a short assessment with my son. And when I say assessment, it's really just a casual interview. He was basically asked a few questions, and the purpose of the assessment or the interview is just to make sure that he can comprehend and speak English, which he was at that time. So he was lucky enough to get into first grade. That information would have been really helpful for us knowing before we even immigrated here. So today, that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about the education system in Canada. We're going to talk about the early childhood service, which is ECS, which is kindergarten, and then we're going to talk about elementary and secondary. We're not going to cover post-secondary or universities or colleges, because this is going to be too long of a video if we do. So maybe just let me know in the comment if you want me to make a video about that as well. But if we haven't met yet, my name is Ryan. We immigrated to Canada back in 2010. We're already citizens right now. And the purpose of this channel is to just share the knowledge, the experiences, and the skills that we've learned all these years to help new immigrants or individuals thinking of immigrating to Canada just to get a little bit ahead. This channel is focused mainly on career building, the lifestyle or the day-to-day, and then of course finances or wealth. So without further ado, let's get into it. The education system in Canada is broken up into different divisions. So I mentioned earlier kindergarten, which is part of the early childhood services. And then there is the elementary, which is from grade 1 to grade 6. And the secondary education, which is from grade 7 to grade 12, or junior high or high school. Other than the different divisions of the education system, your child would also have access to public, Catholic, and private schooling as well. So public schools are free for residents and for child up to grade 12. And there's no prerequisites required for your child to get into the school. The same goes with the Catholic school. It's also free. It's publicly funded, but the school might require baptismal certificate and proof of Catholic faith. Private schools might require some tuition, and they also might require some assessments or exams prior to your child being admitted to their schools. They might also ask for some academic records. Education in Canada is actually a provincial responsibility. So each province is responsible for making sure that they meet the expectations of the region and then the residences as well. All right, so let's start with the first one, which is kindergarten. Kindergarten is part of the early childhood services. Your child needs to be 5 years old first, and it's a preparation for grade 1. If you're going to enroll your child in kindergarten, some provinces requires that your child be 5 years old at a set date. So for example, here in Alberta and Ontario, the set date of your child being 5 years old is December 31st. And in British Columbia and Manitoba, the date is around September. So as I mentioned earlier, there's public and Catholic kindergarten options for you. There's also private schools that can offer kindergarten, but maybe they will come with a cost. The next one is elementary. Elementary starts from grade 1 to grade 6. And your child needs to be around 6 to 12 years old. There's some required courses for elementary. Some required courses, for example, are language arts, mathematics, science, social studies, arts and music. health and physical education as well. But there's also optional classes for your child to get into, and some of them can be different from school to school. So an example is foods, for example, or drama. I know that my son before chose food because he loves to eat and he just loves being around food. And then the next one would be secondary, which is the junior high school and then the senior high school. So secondary starts from grade 7 all the way to grade 12. And for junior high, it's grade 7 to grade 9. And the age usually is from age 12 to age 15. It's the same as elementary, where there are some required courses like language arts, mathematics, science, social studies, and PE or physical education. Health and personal life skills as well can be included in that. There are some optional classes for junior high as well, and again, it depends from school to school. Like for example, there's computer science and arts, which is optional for some junior high school. My daughter is actually really into arts, so she chooses arts as her optional. She's been active into theatrical or performance arts, so she loves those kind of things. And then the next one, which is the senior high. Senior high starts from grade 10 to grade 12. And usually it's from the age of 15 to 18 years old. High school offers a lot of different choices, from academic courses to university admission, to knowledge and employability courses to develop occupational competency. So it's almost like preparing your child to get into the universities and colleges already. So there's a lot of real world exposure, and I know some high school even has a lot of programs that are very useful in a trades environment or trade skills. One of the high schools here in Edmonton, for example, even offer a way for students to become aircraft mechanics or pilots. So, which is quite unique and interesting because those are really advanced skills. I wish I had that when we were in high school. All right, so that covered our kindergarten or ECS, our elementary and secondary. And a couple of things to remember as well is that the school year is traditionally from September to June. And then in high school, that school year is divided into 2 semesters. And at the end of each semester, there's an exam that is given to the student. Summer holiday spans about 2 months, and it starts July up until August. There's a winter holiday, which is about 2 weeks at December. And usually it's at the end of December when the holiday season happens. Now, there is 1 week around late March or April, which is the spring break for children. So it's just a week. Sometimes they call it reading week as well. So I mentioned earlier that high school has 2 semesters. So the first semester is from September, which is the start of the school season, until January. And the second semester is from February till the end of June. Again, as I mentioned, each semester would end with an exam. Canada is bilingual. The student do have the option to get into a French immersion program. So French immersion, the student will be exposed to not just the French language, but also French culture. If you want your child to be in a French immersion program, so they have to start from kindergarten or grade 1, right? Because it's easier for the student to learn the French language and the French culture. But if your child still wants to be in a French immersion, even though they're already past grade 1, I know that you can make an exception. You can just talk to the principal of the school that has a French immersion program, and I'm sure they can consider that. So a couple of things to remember as well is that public schools and the Catholic schools, they are accepting students just within the zones that that the student is living. So, for example, if you have an address, you have to check on what zone you belong to, and there's a designated school for your child to get into. They do that zoning thing so that they can control the population of the school. But there can be exceptions, because I remembered when we were still new, we were within the zone, and my son went to the school where we are part of the zone of that school, and then later on we moved to another house which we are actually outside of the zone. But we talked to the school and we told him that it's hard for my son to adjust to a new school, right? And they were graceful enough to accept him until he finished and graduated elementary in that particular school. So just make sure that you make your case, and I'm sure they'll be willing to consider your situation. But for private school, they don't really take that into consideration. It doesn't matter where you live, so as long as you can bring your child to school on time, they don't have this zoning thing happening for private schools. And a few more things to remember, especially if you're a newcomer or an immigrant. A lot of times you might be struggling to adjust to the culture, and it's not only you but also your child, right? So I can say that for sure because we went through that ourselves when we were new here in Canada. But there are a lot of programs out there, and there's a lot of communities and even clubs in school that supports immersion to the culture of Canada. So make sure to ask around, especially the community that you live in. There's a lot of nonprofit that can definitely lend a hand, and it's really important because you need to have a sense of belongingness when you're new here, because it can be a struggle if you're isolated or feel alone or left out. It's really hard to adapt to the environment. Make sure that you ask around about those programs for newcomers. I'm going to share the link on the different provinces and the link towards the education system there, so that it can help you out research a bit on the education system on whatever province you're planning to move into. All right, so that's about it. So I hope that today's video helped you a little bit about knowing the education system here. I know that we struggled when we came here. I know that in time you'll definitely find your footing here in Canada and find the support and live the life that you want for yourself and your child, especially with the great education system that Canada has to offer. So if you like this video, I would really appreciate you to give me a thumbs up and like, and or if you have anything to share about education system here in Canada that I missed, please do share it in the comment, and I'd love to hear from you, and I'll try to make sure that I answer any of your questions or queries. So again, thank you so much, and I'll see you guys in the next one.